Hi beautiful, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I wanted to play with some makeup and do a full face of Nars makeup. Now, Nars is a brand that I have a very sentimental connection to. It's one of the first brands that I purchased with my hard-earned money when I was still at uni. The product that I purchased was the pressed powder in Beach and the Laguna bronzer, which was the cult product back in like 2010 2009. And I'm telling you, I've gone through probably 3 Laguna bronzers, and now that I'm looking at it, I actually don't think it suits my skin tone. It has a little bit of like a sheen to it, which accentuates my textures, but other than that, the color itself is very natural. I feel like this could work better if you have more of a fairer skin tone, whereas if you have more of like a medium tan skin tone, I would go for Casino. So for the eyes, I have only one eyeshadow palette from Nars, and it is the Wanted eyeshadow palette. I was so glad that they brought this back, I think earlier this year. I'm not sure if they still have this in stock, but I went to Makeup Cosmetica today and they had the mini version of this. But you know, it's still not the same as the first eyeshadow palette. Yeah, so this is what the Wanted eyeshadow palette looks like. It's more of like a neutral warm eyeshadow palette, and I love the fact that everything is pretty compact. The only complaint I have with Nars is that whenever they come out with eye products and cheek products, it's always limited edition. That's why I kind of try to stay away from the brand, but their base products is actually truly amazing. My favorite is the Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer, which I have repurchased over time. We are going to prime our eyes with the concealer. Since I don't have any eye primer from Nars, I don't really see the point of me getting the eye primer that they sell, because concealer works just as great on my skin tone at least. And I like to blend that out with a brush. Recently, I've been loving using brushes to apply concealer and foundation. I have no idea why. Now I am going to set my lids with this shade right here. That one is actually called Barrett's or Barrett. I've actually traveled with this eyeshadow palette a few times, but never really got around to using it as much. For the transition shade, I want to this brown shade right here straight away, and I believe that one is called Shadow Hill, which is this one right here. It's a nice neutral brown that you could pretty much find in any palette these days, but back in the day it's quite hard to find a shade like that. So I'm going to focus that on the crease area, but kind of blow it out all over the lids as well. See how it blends super easy? So now what I want to do is to deepen the outer V, and I am going to use this darker brown right here, and that's called Coconut Grove. I have a feeling that Coconut Grove is sold in a single pan, and it's one of their permanent shades. I remember Amanda Ensing on YouTube talking about that shade, how she loves it because it's like a cross between brown and black. So I'm going to focus that right about there. Don't worry if it's a bit messy, because we'll definitely clean it out. I'm just placing the product and kind of messily blending it because I want this look to be imperfect and more like smoked out. And I am going to go back to that transition shade that we used before, and I'm going to mix a little bit of that shade right there just to blend everything. And I want to add a touch of the berry shade. This one has got actually a little bit of sheen to it. Like, it's not full on matte. It has a little bit of like flecks of glitter. And I'm going to put that basically on top of Coconut Grove. And that shade is called Temptress. So more so focusing it on the inside of the lid and then the crease area. And now for the very fun part. Oh my god, I'm so excited to use the shade. I am going to go and use this shade right here called Mendoza. This is what it looks like. So if you look at it from afar, it's more of like a coppery shade, but if you look closely, it has a little bit of like pink and gold and orange to it, and it's so beautiful. So what I'm going to do is to actually pick up a silicone brush and use that to pick up the shade Mendoza, because I feel like it will pick up more of the shade and it will apply a little bit better. So I'm going to use that and apply that on, and apply that in the middle part of the lid. I'm going to try and pick it up with my finger. Oh yeah. I'm going to flip my brush and I'm going to pick up another sort of like a pressed glitter, and this one is in the shade Shooting Star. Again, same applicator, and then I'm going to apply that on the inner part, and then I'm just gonna quickly blend the outer V. I'm going to pick up Coconut Grove and Temptress, which is this one right here, mix them and kind of blend the outer V a little bit. And then I'm gonna go back to the blending brush and blend over the top of that. For the brow bone highlight, I'm just gonna go and use this shade right here, and that's called Satisfaction. So it's a nice sheeny shade. So I'm just gonna quickly apply some mascara, and then we're going to move on to the face. As I've already primed my face, so for foundation today, this is something new to me and I've actually haven't tried this one, and this is the Nars Radiant Natural Radiant Longwear Foundation, and I have the shade Valencia. I used to love the Nars Sheer Glow Foundation, but I ran out of that and I used Syracuse and that foundation. But for this one, they've extended their foundation shades, so I'm actually a shade before Syracuse, and this is more of like a golden undertone as opposed to Syracuse, which has more of like a brown undertone. And it comes with a pump. What I like to do is to actually put about that much. This is actually quite a lot. Usually I would conceal my redness and my eczema patches, but we will see the coverage on this foundation. The way I have been applying my foundation is by a brush. So I like to use this EcoTools buffing brush or blending brush, and then I like to later blend it out with a beauty sponge. So I like to tap majority of the foundation, especially around my cheek area and around like the chin area. I like to buff. This shade reminds me of my MAC NC42 foundation and Studio Fix. I have a really bad eczema patch over here. I have one right here which covered it quite a bit, and I have like a scarring here and here, and I have a little bit of rosacea on my cheeks as well, and it actually did a pretty good job covering it. So on this side right here I have a huge zit that's actually kind of turning dark now. I have a few dark spots and some breakout, and it gave it a nice I'd say light medium coverage. It doesn't feel heavy, which I like. It has more of like a watery consistency, which is very unusual and something that I'm not really used to, because I tend to use more of like a thicker foundation and kind of just sheer it out. But this one I like. With one full pump, I was able to achieve like a light medium coverage. I don't even need to add a little bit more. So for concealer today, you already know Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer, and I recently changed my shade. I used to use custard, but back then I was really big into like contouring and highlighting, so it didn't really matter. Last year I tried custard again and it looked a little bit too light, so I changed my shade into ginger, and I honestly am in love with this shade. It's the perfect match for my skin tone. It is light, but it's like 1.5 shade lighter as opposed to custard, which is like almost 3 shades lighter than my skin tone. So I'm going to buff the concealer as well as clean up my eyeshadow a bit. Now that I'm cleaning it up, I see a little bit of like mistake, so I like to fix it as well. For setting powder, I have this translucent light reflecting setting powder. This one I bought out of whim. I actually was watching, I forgot her name, Sam Sherman. She's like one of the OG YouTubers. She really is obsessed with this product, and I've tried it and I love it. The only problem is it leaves a really bad white cast. So what I like to do is to pick up product from this jar right here and pop it in the cover, and whatever product is there, I really work it into my under eye. So I don't like to bake with it because again it leaves a white cast. So what I like to do is really buff it and tap it into the skin. I use the very tiniest amount of this powder because again I don't want to have a very ugly flashback, but it creates a very nice filter underneath your eyes. As you can see, my eyes are under my eyes is very flawless. It looks very airbrush almost. Only problem is it doesn't do well with flash photography, so you just have to be aware of that. I would say just stick to either Too Faced or Laura Mercier, or use the press version of this because it's a lot better and I feel like it's more controlled as opposed to the loose powder. I like to cover the creases that I already have. So as usual for under eye area, I only ever apply at least 2 shades mixed together as opposed to me applying like gazillion shades. So I am going to use the Shadow Hill, which is the transition shade we used, and apply that all over. And I like to go a little bit lower and smoked out so we can camouflage those fine lines. And then I am going to use the same brush and apply Coconut Grove on the outer part and kind of connect that to the upper. And then with the same brush, for fun, I'm going to apply a little bit of this Temptress shade on the inner part. For the inner corner highlight, I'm just going to use this shade called Delirium. So this one right here. It's a nice champagne pink shade. Just that one right there. It has a nice reflect. And I'm going to pop that. For face today, we are going to bronze slash contour with the Laguna bronzer, which is an OG, but a goodie. I think I'm better off using Casino, which I unfortunately don't have, but I mean, this powder is great for when you're actually quite pale. For blush today, I actually have 2 sets of blushes. So you guys have already seen this, and this is the Frenzy in Dual Intensity Blush. This is actually a blush duo, but I love the fact that this one right here is more of a highlight, and I have used this so many times. I have traveled with this blushed so many times and it just won't die. Like, I still have so much product left. I actually really do love the highlight in here because it looks more of like a very wet highlight, which is that one right there, as opposed to it being so glittery. I also have the Klein blush palette, and this is from one of the collections that Klein did with Nars. And this is what the shades look like. Obviously, I'm going to use this shade right here because that's the only matte shade. The highlight on this palette is not very good. So I'm going to dip into the shade Savage, which is that one right there. And I'm going to put a little bit of this shade right here from the Dual Intensity Blush, because this one complements my skin tone more because it's that coral blush. For the highlight, the shade So I purchased the Lip Glide Trio in one of those travel packet things. I gave away the nude, so I'm left with Vandal and Banshee. And I also have this red, what's this called? Lip pigment, but we're not gonna go for red today. I feel like we're gonna go for this. Unfortunately, I don't have a lip liner, so I'm just gonna line my lips with this Marc Jacobs lip liner. And this one is in Nudist. I love the Lip Glides formula because it's matte, but it doesn't feel matte, if you know what I mean. And they smell really good too. Here it is, folks, my finished makeup look. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more updates, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye!